Hello everyone, my name is Mayu Suzuki and welcome back to Warwick International Development Society's Career Profiles. In this series, we will be talking to Warwick alumni working across the development sector, sharing their knowledge, experience and insightful advice in the industry. If you haven't done so yet, please check out our first episode with Demilade as well. In our second episode today, we are welcoming Pavlina Proteou, an expert on corporate social responsibility, CSR, and sustainable development. After completing her master's in politics and international affairs at Warwick, she has worked with the Greek government, international organizations, NGOs, consulting firms, private financial institutions, and now a founder and CEO of Beyond CSR. Pavlina brings the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals to her work, producing a positive, tangible impact through novel economic and business models. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for the invitation. It's really a privilege to be part of this interview series on international development from International Development Society of Warwick University, as I'm an alumni, and to give my view on things, on my experience on a cutting edge topic as international development, as it's closely related. It is actually the roots of for sustainable development, as even the very word reveals. So thank you, and I'm ready for it.
With your highly multidisciplinary and varied background, it is hard to pick a question, but I suppose we can start with what inspired you to work in the field of international development?
I believe working in governments and international organizations on the fields of politics and international affairs, it gives you a broad view of the cataclysmic level of inequalities in the world. Mm-hmm. And you see the challenges in a way firsthand when it comes to tackling the problem and understanding that you need to provide, not you apparently, but a network of people, an organization need to come up with solid solutions in a world faced with all sorts of challenges, from environmental disasters to poverty to lack of access to goods like to the commons like health, education, justice. So and you realize that this should be part of a solid policy making, because we're talking sustainable development in terms of bottom up, usually through the third sector or foundation NGOs. But unfortunately, I'm afraid it's not. It is decision making from politicians, governments, that is, original governments, and corporations. And of course, that includes international organizations and foundations. And it needs to be a collective decision making. Mm-hmm. Safeguards the next steps. But yes, it was this really massive level of inequalities we see, and we're faced even.
So you had that kind of view when you were still studying at university?
Actually, when I was studying at the university, no, I didn't have this kind of view, because actually when you're in your early 20s, you hardly have that view of the world. Coming from Europe, we're blessed to enjoy things that they're probably unheard of to our to other young people around the globe. We have access to education, we have access to health, we have we live in a proper household. We can have holidays that to many people is something unthinkable. Mm-hmm. So yes, at this stage you don't have you have no idea of what basically goes on in the world. And plus it was different times, so without the social media, you only see things in the news. So when I joined Warwick University, my target was, my goal was to work for international organizations, governments, and provide consulting, which I did.
Mm-hmm.
But eventually, that provided me with an intra and multidisciplinary view of the world that is really much needed in what I do today, which back at the time I could have possibly thought of, that I would make such a shift in my career, and that would come as a normal transition.
Okay. So it's more natural to you than rather than say like you planned it from the beginning.
Oh yes, I mean I hadn't planned such a shift. It came after a burnout, after working way too much and way too hard. Don't take me wrong, it's good, we have to work hard and we have to really give the best of ourselves in our work. Mm-hmm. But then again, when we're talking sustainable development, we need to be sustainable and healthy. Certainly. And at a certain point, there was I saw also no meaning on what I used to do for governments, for banking institutions. I wanted to take it a step further. I worked a lot in consumer organizations also, that included international organizations from consumers' point of view. And then I realized the massive potential and I was wondering how we could bring together the public and the private sector mm-hmm. in a win-win way, in a way that would be a smooth transition, like so to speak, a velvet revolution that could mm-hmm. be a game changer in a way that would profit everyone included, mm-hmm. and that would have a measurable positive impact to the community, to society. And as I was an expert to European projects related to sustainability, social inclusion, gender issues, I realized that CSR is a huge territory, as it is a budget that is already there in big corporations. I mean, you have it there, and then you should use it, big corps, that is. Something more other than corporate philanthropy or charity or one-off activities. It could be in many ways like an impact investment tool. If you see CSR as a fund, as a seed to angel money fund, and if with the help of cutting-edge technologies, you can spot ideas, turn them into initiatives and projects that you can connect to the market via sustainable bonds, if it's public-private partnerships, or if it's just the private sector in terms of equities. And then if the project is mature enough, can go to the VC level. But all that should respond to global challenges mm-hmm. in a smaller way or bigger way. And then innovation anyway is replicable and scalable. So someone else could take it and take it a step further. Mm-hmm. So this is what triggered my mind that there is a field there that somehow is unexplored.
Okay, so corporate social responsibilities are your answer to sustainable development?
Yes, as a tool. It's not the only answer, and apparently it's not the only tool, but it can be, it can trigger mm-hmm. sustainable development, and it can be, it can be an experimental tool as well. As I said, it's money that is there, and the CSR is there to respond to global challenges. And corporate philanthropy is another thing. Yeah. CSR is about creating shared value, but also in terms of ethics. The problem is that even currently, as we speak, the funds, for example, are challenging this ethical part of the CSR because it's not money, doesn't create profit or more money for a corporate. So you see that there is still a problem, even with money that is there for that specific reason.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that in itself says a lot about how the corporate world, and that there I would also include the funds, sees and views sustainable development. We're talking impact investment, but still we just see an array for more money, to make more money and more profit instead of a territory to multiply impact for both a fund, but the society as well, the environment and the society, because we have to understand that we all go together. So also when we talk to CSR, I believe it's kind of not right the definition of corporate citizen. We need to see citizens as we all are. Some of us may work in a corporation. Mm-hmm. Many of us do not work in a corporation. And I believe citizen has to be addressed as citizen in order to have impact, positive impact, in a simple and measurable way.
So including everyone.
Yes, it's about it, but sustainable development is about inclusive growth by default. It's an holistic model. You can't talk sustainability if it's not about inclusive transition. You cannot talk sustainability transformation if it's not inclusive. How can we? And then how we can talk resilience if we do not manage to take each and every step in the right way, and that is inclusive way. Mm-hmm. And that's the way to resilience as well, because we talk a lot about resilience, but what is resilience? Mm-hmm. If we do not manage to be all together in this.
Yeah, I suppose the UN slogan is to leave no one behind. But when we talk about the 2030 agenda, do you think it is possible for us to achieve it?
In 2030? Well, 2030 is 9.5 years ahead, not a century. And let me remind you that in the beginning of, in early 2000s, we talked about the Millennium Sustainable Development Goals, and then became 2015, and now in 2020, we're already August of 2020. Mm-hmm. We really have a long way to go, and we really have to run a marathon, but like 100 meters. If we talk about leaving no one behind, we need to connect the dots in such an efficient way that will really cover for the time we have really lost. I mean, it's almost 9 years, and governments, it's only 10% of the governments that take seriously climate change and a climate emergency. The same goes for corporates. The corporate world is doing better, is performing better, but again, we're talking about the environment. But even the corporate world views this whole sustainability thing, even the ESG criteria that is of paramount importance, as just changing the KPIs. It's not financial criteria. And sustainable development brings together the financial and the non-financial world. Mm-hmm. Because not everyone is an economist. No, we're talking environment, society, and governance to improve economics and to really include the marginalized populations to middle class and wealthy population. But on the other hand, what we see that on the one end, we have managed to eradicate extreme poverty, that is below $1 or $2 per day, if I'm correct, if I'm wrong. But on the other hand, there is a growing poverty and a vanishing middle class, while more money, it goes to fewer. So the wealth are getting wealthier and the middle class is vanishing. And that's not really sustainable. We cannot talk sustainability in these terms.
No.
In a way, we also need to redefine the semantics and the very term in itself, and make a wider audience understand what we talk when we talk sustainability, and why we should be aware and we should care. Mm-hmm. That is about our that is actually our very own existence at stake as a species. Mm-hmm. If we don't take action. But we have to bring awareness in a way that is not elitistic, using buzzwords among a crowd of people that knows what we're talking about. We have to make it simple. In order to make it simple, we need to kind of change the semantics. But no, I don't believe that 2030 we will manage to achieve even half of the global goals, because there are 17 global goals. I mean, the most important is the global goal 17, that is the partnership for the goals. It's paramount. It's all about partnerships. And partnerships, in a way, it's about an inclusive model. Mm-hmm. And then,
so we can probably, our first step is to raise more awareness and create like connections, partnerships.
Exactly. And in order to create awareness, we need to be solutions oriented and really walk the talk, not to be theoretical. We have to be hands-on, and we have to ask the expertise of people that have really worked in the field. Mm-hmm. And can make things simple. And we need to use every weapon, in quotation marks, in every tool that is available out there, in order to achieve at least half of what it is to be achieved. I mean, we have the tools, we have exponential technology, we have data, and especially social big data can be a massive source of information, of ideas. It's the wealth of knowledge there. It's amazing. We've never had so much access to so much information. Okay, we need to screen it, but social big data is there. We have to use big data. We have to use open data. AI, but AI can help us maybe challenging for in terms of the future of work, but also can be of a massive help in safeguarding jobs. So we need to redefine, to review things, to see things through different lenses, and to use an inclusive vocabulary as well. The wording is really important. We talk about, for example, AI and the future of work, and sustainability is about job creation. You can't possibly talk about sustainability with tens of millions of people unemployed, or let's not talk about gender. That is another massive issue to be addressed. So there's so many issues to be addressed at the same time. Gender is one. Women are underpaid, women are poorer than men, they're subject to violence. And I mean, the COVID, the lockdown period revealed that in the most explosive way, that violence against women really exploded. And So we have so many challenges to face, and we do, I'm afraid, very little in terms of actual of taking actual measures. Not we spend too much time in reporting and in theoretical talks and discussions, and we do very little compared to what has to be done. Don't get me wrong, we have improved a lot. There has been a huge progress on the way. No one denies that. But the problem is that we don't have time to lose if we are to achieve at least some of the goals in a more tangible way. And what I believe is that both governments and corporations need to start focusing on some of them, depending on the country, depending on the corporation. And of course, they have to work together, but have to work together like as if they're part of the same corporation, of the same government. In such yes, and there you have to include academia, there you have to include the third sector and social enterprises, because by DNA they are forces of good, and can open new ways of thinking and of implementing, which is the most important. Implementation, that's the problem. The methodology in the implementation. We can talk for hours, but then draft strategies, and then when we are to implement them,
we need the action now.
Exactly. We need to act now. Now we talk about the future, but the future is now. So we need lifelong learning is imperative. It's not just the children at school or students at universities, but also my generation. It's so-called Generation X. They're young people. I mean, we live longer, so we need to learn. We need to unlearn, relearn, learn again. And sustainable development is an ongoing process, and we need to learn what we're dealing with, which are the problems.
Yeah.
And one of the major problems is aging population. And then what do? They need to be trained. We need to be trained. I mean, I became a startupper after my 40s, and then being a woman, it was twice the challenge, because after your 40s might be okay if you're a he, but if you're a she, it's a bit more challenging. So you see how many things we have to face, and I had to learn new things. It's a non-stop, and it's an ongoing process.
Yes. And it makes it even more complicated because many things are connected to each other as well.
Yes, it may, but okay, we need to focus, and we focus, but we need to understand the broad view in order to focus.
Yes.
Because if you do not understand that throwing your garbage like that, it may create problem. Because if everyone does, then you end up waking up one morning and you have a pile of garbage right in front of your house, not literally. It's the same goes to everything. You need to focus, but you need to understand the broad view. You need to understand that if your neighbor country suffers, the thing is that tomorrow might be you. If the population in African countries is facing non-stop challenges, that will end up in your hands. With climate change, it's not just about climate change. We may have about 50 million climate refugees crossing from Africa to Europe. And then you will have the populists and the nationalists complaining. Okay, you have to take measures then. You have to take solid policies to make sure that if they stay back home, they live well.
Yeah. We have an interesting question from our audience related to the topic. So from your experience working in both the government and also NGOs, what would you say is the biggest difference between your more political work, I would say, and your work in development?
As I said, politicians tend to be too theoretical. I mean, they draft policies, bills, they pass laws. The problem is the implementation.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is the implementation and the political cost, and that varies from country to country.
Mm-hmm.
But where you see too many laws, too many bills, too much paperwork, there is no implementation. While in development, in the development world, it's more solutions oriented. Mm-hmm. And we need to be solutions oriented. We need to see it the way, if you're a startupper, the first thing you do is you draft your business canvas. Mm-hmm. We need to draft business canvas, what works and what doesn't work. Mm-hmm. Because not everything works. Mm-hmm. And as I said before, we have the tools there, we have even the people. We have to use lean startup methods if we really have to speed up, because we really need to accelerate the implementation, which is a problem. So yes, that's the thing.
I guess theoretical work is also important to remind us of like what would work and what wouldn't, but then in your opinion, like there isn't much action at all at the moment, so there's like really imbalance.
Like, there is action, but needs to be accelerated. We really need to pace up. To work much faster. And what is theoretical can also use a practical background. We need to use best practices. We need to be based on best practices and proof of evidence. If we are to draw even our theoretical models and policy making. Policy making is not abstract. There are best practices out there in both of public governance, corporate governance, regional governance. Everything is there. So we just need to use it and in an efficient way. But for that, you need diverse actors working together, diverse stakeholders to work towards this collective purpose. And for that, we need more empathy. It's collective empathy. We have collective intelligence. We have more intelligence than we ever had in the world. And thanks to social media, we see the problem. As we see the problem, we need to walk somehow into somebody else's shoes. If we do not do that, it's still an elitistic kind of view in the world. So we need to bring, in these diverse actors, we need to bring everyone in. And that means countries, regions, citizens. You have to bring the people that face the problem. And there are ways, there are platforms for that people can write their problems, send it in local, regional governments, and there are even platforms for that. So it can be also bottom up. Because you need to turn also global opinion into global action. And you see it in social, if you use social big data, which is the way to work in social media, you see that. You see which are the dire needs and needs, need to be addressed.
Definitely, certainly. Now we have a slight shift of focus, but so in pursuing sustainable development in your career, what do you think were the biggest struggles, challenges, and achievement you've had so far?
The challenges are non-stop, of starting from shifting career and rebranding yourself on that. Yes. The other is the gender and age when you shift career. But the gender was something an issue I had to face back at the time in my career in international affairs. and politics, yes, the gender is always an issue, because if you're too young, you're too young, and then once you start growing older, you're too old. Women have to face are faced with more challenges than men. And if you ask me for biggest achievement, I would say that the very fact that I managed this transition, and I managed to in beyond CSR to start building a team of people that we share view, and that we are all sharing goal, the same mission and vision, and we're trying to build something that will come up with solutions. In a way, I believe that is a non-stop process. So I wouldn't name one achievement, because, okay, I could tell you that back at the time when I was a spokesperson for the Greek EU presidency, so I was a spokesperson for the Eurogroup in the ECOFIN Council, that one would consider it as an achievement. But I consider more of an achievement to manage to persuade people to work together and to go out eventually and convince other people to give even €1 to beyond CSR to do a consulting assignment, because it's a challenge becoming an entrepreneur. It's a massive challenge, and there is a lot of hush about the startup world and social entrepreneurship. No, it's a crash test at any given level: personal, professional, business. You define and redefine yourself nonstop. Your organization goals, you have to adjust and readjust and adapt to new situations. So I think the achievement is the capacity to learn nonstop, because I really believe that if I had to pick one thing as that I would treasure the most, is the chance to learn. We are meant to learn.
I've never thought about achievements in that way, as in like a continuous process rather than just like one-off event.
Yes, because it's like saying that you stop there. I mean, if you see achievements in a rather more narrow way, then yes, the fact that at a quite young age I had this position during this presidency or other positions. These, professionally speaking, are achievements. But if we take the macro level, sustainability level, to our micro level, that is ourselves, being sustainable means also that you have a more holistic view of yourself and what you consider as an achievement or not. So in a way, you reconsider things. Yes, this was an achievement, and this, of course, provided the knowledge of what would come in the future. Back at the time, I didn't know. I had no idea. But for me, really, the biggest achievement is to view our professional lives in a more meaningful way, and learning is really a key, because you learn in so many different ways. In a stricter sense, that you take certifications, you have to learn things, and in a wider, because you yourself have to become, in order to become more resilient, you adapt to new situations, to new experiences. So if I would consider something as an achievement, it would be learning, the capacity to learn again and again new things and progress, because this way you progress as an organization. Because if you see that from a collective spectrum, that everyone is under the same process, learn again and again new things, view the world from different lenses, and improve, which improves our thinking, sharpens our empathy, then yes, learning is important in that sense.
Definitely.
Yeah, so
your advice is already new learning for me. So thank you very much. So you
thank you,
touched
because
on,
it's really
yeah. Sorry. Sorry. I just wanted to follow up on what you've said earlier, that you faced many challenges as an entrepreneur, and I was wondering if you had any tips or advice to like young entrepreneurs and also those who are looking to work in international development field.
International development field, either as an advisor or entrepreneur. Okay, let's start. International development field. If you're an advisor, things in a way are easier because you're part of an organization, and so someone else is providing the living for you. So you have a safety net. But on the other hand, you have to struggle more in order to convince, because especially international organizations are really heavy structures. So, and then really need to change that if they are to be efficient. So then you really need to identify the people you can work with in order to bring change and to bring positive impact. As an entrepreneur, if I had to pick one word for it would be perseverance.
Okay.
That would definitely be it, because it's a non-stop challenge at so many levels. I had to dissolve the first Beyond CSR because I wasn't ready for it. In a way, I had no idea how to become an entrepreneur. So despite the positive feedback I would get from people, even pitching events, reality is a totally different thing when you go out and ask for money. So I wasn't even ready to go out and ask for money. So it was a really good thing for me that I didn't see dissolving an organization as a failure, but rather as a step further, acquiring more knowledge and what not to do in my next steps. Because failure is part. I mean, I don't even like the word failure. I see it rather as a learning process. But perseverance, and it's perseverance. It's hard work. It's to identify the people, the right team to work with. It's very important because without the right team, there's no work. There's no way you can work. And I think there are not many recipes for success. I mean, I read a lot of articles, or books about the recipe for success, but it's one down to perseverance. You have to persist. You have to be persistent. You have to really believe in what you do and be passionate. Depending the territory, but you always need to be a bit visionary, but also remember that you need to take tangible steps, solid steps. You need to be solid.
Thank you. That's all the questions for today. Did you have anything else, like a final note?
If there was a final note, is to be passionate about what you do, no matter whether you are part of a government, of an international organization, or as an entrepreneur, because there are different challenges, but there are always challenges. And as I said, if you're a woman, there are even more. And develop an understanding of the people around you, of the environment around you. And if you want to take the entrepreneur's path, perseverance. Mm-hmm. Perseverance, because it's an ongoing process, and it's a day-to-day, on a daily basis. You have to face obstacles, you have to improvise. And I mean, for example, now with the pandemic, everything, I mean, it literally turned everything, changed everything. Right. And we have to work in different ways. But you have sometimes to go with the flow. Yeah. Take a step back, take a breath, and move ahead. But passion is important. Yeah. It's important, sorry. Passion is really important. Mm-hmm. Passion is important. Passion and empathy. Yeah. If you are in there, if you are in this field of sustainable development, empathy to understand the world, and that somebody else may have more problems that we have, and we together we need to solve them, and fast and efficient, in a fast and efficient way. And
thank you very much. That was very inspiring. I guess passion is like what keeps you going and overcome the continuing challenges. Yes. Thank you very much again for valuable insights today. You can find more about Beyond CSR on their website, and stay tuned for the new website coming very soon.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. Finally, yes. if you found this episode interesting, follow Warwick International Development Society's social media to keep updated on more contents on international development, and of course our next episode of Career Profiles. Thank you very much, Pavlina.
Thank you. It has been a great pleasure and privilege. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye. Bye.